Hello and welcome everybody to our Prostate Cancer Patient Empowerment Program, episode number 12. I'm Dr. Gabriela and today we have a very special conversation, one that is equal parts honest, courageous, deeply human, and at times wonderfully funny. I'm joined by Wayne, a proud graduate of the Prostate Cancer Patient Empowerment Program, and a man whose story reminds us that even in the middle of a prostate cancer diagnosis, or maybe especially in the middle of it, humor, truth-telling, and community can make all the difference. Wayne takes us through his journey from a routine PSA test to a very non-routine diagnosis, through surgery, recovery, and the emotional roller coaster that comes with it. And he does it with an openness that is refreshing, that is disarming, and often laugh out loud, relatable. As a gay man navigating prostate cancer, Wayne brings forward insights many people never hear in clinical rooms. Things about identity, intimacy, sexuality, and the unique experience of trying to rebuild a sense of self when the world around you still feels very heteronormative. And he does this with a clarity and humor that only someone who has truly lived it can offer. His reflections remind us that vulnerability is not weakness, it's a superpower. And that finding the right words, the right people, and the right program at the right moment can turn an overwhelming experience into one that reveals strength, resilience, and even unexpected joy. The Prostate Cancer Patient Empowerment Program, developed here in Nova Scotia, is now available around the world, is designed exactly for moments like these to help individuals rebuild physically, emotionally, and relationally in ways that honor who they truly are. If you'd like to learn more, visit PC-PEP.org or explore cancerpep.com for programs open to all cancer survivors. You can also watch our documentary, Empower, where stories like Wayne's are brought to life with heart and evidence. Go to our website, pcpep.org, and you can find our documentary there. Thank you so much for being here. Let's dive into Wayne's honest, wise, and wonderfully human journey. One that shows that healing is not just about the body, but about identity, connection, courage, and yes, keeping our sense of humor along the way. Welcome, everybody. Wayne, it's so wonderful to have you. Thank you so much for taking time of your busy day to be here with me today.
Thank you for having me, and trust me, my day's not as busy as yours. So thank you for taking the time.
And I'm so grateful that you had power.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, it would not be a great Zoom call if we didn't have power.
Exactly. Wayne, I just want to start our conversation. Cheers. I just want to start our conversation around your diagnosis. And maybe first, just give people an idea of what it was like for Wayne to be diagnosed with prostate cancer. What was your life before? So, how did you learn about this? And what kind of impact it had on you and your navigation of your life from there onwards? What exactly happened? So that we kind of contextualize Wayne first.
Sure. Well, thank you. And again, thank you for this opportunity. I think it's good to talk about these things because everybody talks about the journey. Everybody's journey is different, but there are a lot of similarities a lot of the time, and you're always surprised by things. But for me, I'm currently 63, and
You have many more years to come.
Let's hope so.
Oh,
and
many more.
you know what? I was what I would call very, very, very healthy. I have a very healthy lifestyle. I don't smoke. I haven't eaten red meat in 40 years. I'm not a vegetarian, but I prefer fish to other animals. And I was not on any meds. So my blood pressure is good. My all those things that you start to kind of get a sense of later in life that you start managing. I wasn't really dealing with any of those things. And, fortunately for me, I'm one of those people that have a family doctor, and he is a lovely doctor. He is incredibly caring. And, despite the fact that he's busy as hell all the time, he always has time and always asks the right questions. And I'm sort of diligent in that I like to go in and get my annual health check. And, I've been going in for an annual for as long as I can remember. And it would be in, let me see, I want to make sure I get the months correct just so that you get a sense of where this went. In February of 2022, yes, 2022, I had just gone in for my routine check and my doctor sent for my blood work. And he was one of the doctors that checks the PSA box. And he called me and he said, your blood work came back and your PSA seems to be up a little bit. And he said, it's nothing alarming, but he said, it seems like it went up. And so I would like to go do some more blood work, maybe in 3 months. Let's see what happens. And so I'm going to say, I think it was maybe a 3. My PSA was 3. And so 3 months later, I went and got my blood work done again. He called me up and he said, yeah, there's definitely something going on. He said, your PSA's gone up to 6. And
Whoa.
he said, and that was really fast. He said, so I'm going to refer you to a urologist. He said, this could be a lot of things. And so, I was sort of a little apprehensive, a little concerned because it said, I'm not really dealing with a lot of health issues. I ended up going into the urologist in July. And it was for the the sort of full exam. So I had the digital exam, and the urologist said, oh, you know what, your prostate seems to be completely normal from the exam I'm doing. He said, I think we probably should do a biopsy. And so they scheduled a biopsy, and I had the biopsy in August.
Mhm.
And the biopsy was definitely an eye opener. It's not a particularly pleasant experience, but it is one of the only ways that you can really be sure that there isn't something serious going on. So I had that in September. And by that time, honestly, I thought something was up. You just sort of start to get the feeling the way things are going that probably something was up. So I started reading up a lot on prostate cancer diagnoses, on what it means to men at different ages, and what this mysterious PSA number sort of means as I started to get into things. And I'm not what I would call an internet doctor. I don't really do that, but I felt that it was important for me to be informed because I felt like I was going down the road that maybe I was going to need to be informed about a potential situation. There wasn't any prostate cancer in my family, and actually the urologist asked me that, and I said, I'm in an interesting demographic. Because of my age, at that time I was 61, I said, look, my parents are gone. All of my uncles are gone. My grandfathers were gone before I was born. I don't know if there's any prostate cancer in my family because, frankly, if there was, it potentially wasn't diagnosed, and then those men died of something else. Or if it was, it certainly wasn't treated because in those days, the treatment was a whole lot different, and you didn't just, get out of the hospital the next day after a potential treatment. So I said, I can't really base that on any knowledge that I know there is, but, who the hell knows? So I did my research. I got my call back in October, so a month later. So when I went into that meeting, I was taking my husband with to my meetings because I think it's important. When you're preparing for these sort of potentially life-changing responses, it's really important to have a set of ears there that cares about you, but that is listening from a different perspective. And, it could be a partner, it could be a sibling, it could be a parent, it could be a friend. But, privacy kind of goes out the window on these kinds of things. You really, really need to have somebody with you. And so, the urologist came in and said, it was the good news, bad news. The bad news is you do have prostate cancer. The good news is it was a Gleason score 7, which is on the low end. He said, I'm assuming it's quite early diagnosis, which is very positive. He said, and it was, I guess it's 3+4, which is better than the 4+3. And again, you sort of get caught up in these numbers. But he explained to me, he said, look, I don't remember exactly. There was something like 98% of men at this stage will deal with this. This will not be what kills you. Something else is going to. But quite frankly, by that time, the word cancer is firmly lodged in your head. You're not thinking really clearly about a lot of things. Instead, you're thinking, "Oh my God, this is exactly my biggest fear." As I said, I had done a lot of research, so I sort of was. I was for some reason thinking this was going to be the diagnosis. And so the urologist said at the time, he said, look, you have the benefit of a sort of a myriad of different types of treatments. You can go with surgery, which would be a robotic prostatectomy. You could go with a radiation treatment. He said, you can decide. And I have to be honest, I had sort of already made my decision by the time before I'd even had this meeting, that if this was going to be the diagnosis and I was able to have the surgery, then surgery was the route I wanted to go. I'm younger, and I recognize that. And again, back to things I had sort of investigated. I knew about the side effects. I sort of knew that the side effects with surgery would be the day after. The side effects with radiation and that type of treatment could be a few years down the road, but we're all sort of in the same bubble of dealing with the same sort of side effects. And I was of the mindset that, look, I'm 61, I'm healthy, I'm probably in a better spot to take this on in this way. And so I'm going to go this direction. I made the decision then and said, I'd like to get on the list for surgery. That was October. Had a little bit of bumps getting a surgery date. Won't even bother getting into it because it's all very trivial. And I finally got a surgery date at the end of April. So that would be April of 2024. Had my surgery, everything that I had anticipated and had prepared for was exactly what happened. The one thing I will add in, and I'm not saying this to suck up, I'm only saying this because I think it's an important part of my experience. Unfortunately for me in the urologist's office, no one told me about the PC-PEP program. I didn't really know anything about it, and I know you've heard that numerous times, but I think it's important to say it. I'm still questioning now where I'm at as to why I was not told about that program at my diagnosis, because the program in no way, shape, or form could hurt me in any way. All it can do is help me. And so, you're sort of diagnosed and sent out the door with kind of the decision of, okay, what treatments are you going to take? But unless you know someone who's been through it, you really don't know what to do. It was just by a fluke that I got an email, and I don't even remember who it was from, in late December or January of my diagnosis year. And the PC-PEP program thing was a little line at the bottom of the email. And it was just one of those informational emails. And I thought, oh, I wonder what this is. I went on the website. I was very interested. I literally reached out the next day. So I ended up on the program at the beginning of February. That ended up being an enormous blessing for me in a myriad of ways. I started Kegels right away. There was a great impact of that on the back end. I was listening to the voicemails every morning, the lovely messages you guys send. I was taking into account the thing about food. I was working with the monitor that also was incredibly useful, despite the fact that it was just irritating as hell and really, really hard to get a grip on how to do it. I even took it on a trip to Cuba with me and would sit in my hotel room trying desperately to get those good numbers. Anyway, and the other blessing was I reached out to the organization early on. I said, look, I'm a man who at this point in my life, and again, that's another sort of caveat, at this point in my life, I identify as a gay man. I would like a buddy, and I would prefer the buddy to be gay. Not that I'm trying to be exclusionary, but there are a whole lot of things I want to talk about in relation to this experience that's going on with me. And I just think it's a conversation that's probably going to happen better between two gay men. I was fortunate in that you guys patched me up with the absolute perfect person. He was going through surgery a few weeks after we made contact. So we
Perfect.
were both kind of
Perfect.
going down the same road. I can't say enough about him. He even sent me photos after his surgery of where the incisions were and what to
Oh,
expect.
bless
And
his heart.
and look, those kinds of things are incredibly valuable. So long story short, had my surgery. It went perfect. Had my catheter for 2 weeks. Worst part of the whole experience. Had the catheter removed. Had absolutely complete incontinence. Had no control whatsoever. Was alarmed and freaked out that, oh God, is this going to be my future? Started doing my Kegels again. Within 3 weeks, it started getting better. Within 7 weeks, it was better still. I'm now sort of a year and a half from surgery. I'm completely dry. I do my Kegels 3 times a day. I listen to Rob tell me to squeeze and nuts to the guts 3 times a day. I have it in my phone and my watch, and I play it and I do them because I know, yeah, it's a little bit of a pain, but it's not nearly as much of a pain as incontinence. So you know what? I'm willing to do that. And the other piece was, dealing with erectile dysfunction, which I had none before the surgery. Like I had complete erectile function, and after the surgery had absolutely none. And I'm a year and a half down the road. I still have pretty well what I would consider none. I bought a Vacurect pump
Yeah.
shortly after my diagnosis. And I use that still every day, but that's really not helping me in that regard. I was on daily Cialis. That didn't seem to be happening for me either. And I'm not crazy about drugs that cost a lot of money and frankly, not really doing much for me. So, kind of finishing off this particular point, I'm now waiting for an appointment, which I've asked for February because I'm going to Europe for a month and a half at Christmas. I'm going to have a penile implant done
I am
because,
happy to hear that.
again, I'm of the
Yeah.
age where I feel I can deal with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And it's been a
and
while since you've been treated, right? Yeah,
sure,
exactly.
a year
So
and a
things
half.
have settled. You landed.
Going to
Yeah.
be practically 2 years. And because I'm not having a lot of function, I'm not really
Mhm.
looking to sit for another 3 to 5 years with no function, going
Mhm.
where I feel like I'm going to inevitably get to where I'm going.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just going to go there now,
Yeah.
because you know what? I still have a sex life. I still want to have a sex life. I don't want to wait till I'm 75 and then go, oh, I've had 10 years or 15 years of no sex life. Maybe there is an alternative. Um, I'm ready to
You're
go.
not dead. You're not disabled. You
Oh,
still
hell no, I'm not.
absolutely. You look fabulous.
Yeah,
You're
no, no, I'm not dead.
in your life. You have your life
Yes,
purpose to live. And part of who we
yes,
are as
yes,
people is our sexual identity. I mean, we're sexual beings from the
absolutely.
moment we're born until we die. That's just no
Yes.
different than our ability to breathe, our ability to make connections with people, right? Yeah.
Absolutely. And I mean, and this is, a bit in the weeds, but I think it's important again because everybody's, journey or adventure is
Different.
different.
Yes.
I identified as heterosexual for
Yeah.
most of my life. I was married to an absolutely wonderful woman for
Mhm.
37 years. I
Mhm.
lost her to myeloid leukemia in
Wow.
2016, and it was very quick. Um,
Mhm.
uh, and at that point in my life, I was sort of at a crossing where I thought,
Mhm.
you know what? I kind of knew I was bisexual, and I thought, okay, this is potentially a door opening in two different directions. And I was sort of opening myself up to a relationship,
Mhm.
regardless of who or what that was. And this particular time, I have been blessed by every god of love from history to now be with a second person who I adore and loves me back so much. And I don't know what I did in life to have had this experience now a second time, and I'm very, very thankful for that.
Yeah.
And there's not a day that I don't
Mhm.
acknowledge it and I don't recognize it. But the other side of that is my viewpoint of this experience of being a man, of the way, and in particular, let's just talk about healthcare because that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Healthcare is incredibly heteronormative in terms of the way everything is treated. And, Gabrielle, for most of my life, that never occurred to me because it was being marketed to me. It was being marketed to my life experience and to, so it was never something I sat back and said, this is not really inclusive. But now where I'm in another part of my life where when I vote, I'm now voting for rights as a gay man to have gay rights. When I look at things, I now look at them and go, is that really an inclusive message? And it's not that I feel that now that I identify as gay, that I should be getting special treatment. I don't want special
Beautiful.
treatment.
Yeah.
I just want the same. I
Yeah.
just want the
I
same
just want
treatment
to
as
be
everybody
seen.
else.
Yeah. I don't,
You
yeah.
know,
I exist. I'm here and it's part of humanity. It's
it's
not
such an
special.
intriguing
But
thing to me
yeah.
that
Yeah.
so many straight people, when they're confronted or when they talk about gay rights, they see gay rights as taking something away from them. And I find that such an interesting perspective because gay rights is nothing more than treat us the same as everybody else.
With
Don't
respect,
treat
with
us any
dignity,
differently.
with respect,
Treat
with
us with
dignity, with
dignity.
kindness, with compassion. Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's about
And
being
it's
human. It's about acting human.
the last 10 years of my life have been so incredibly, I've just become more aware of the human condition than I ever have before. It is a heteronormative world. And so when gay people walk in a parade and say, we just want equal rights, that's really what it's about. And it's not a whole lot different than what women were doing, 50 years ago, and what African American people or Black people were doing 60 years ago and 70 years ago. It's just about being treated equal, about not having. It's not about special rights. It's just about being the same, of having the same rights. So that was a really long answer to your question.
And
And I have a tendency to do that. I've been public speaking for most of my life, as you probably
Oh, I love
surmised.
it. You're so articulate and so appropriate and so kind, and you speak from the heart. I'm not surprised that you're so much loved, and I'm so happy you found
Thank you.
once again someone that
Thank you.
adores you. You deserve to
Thank
be
you.
loved. You deserve to be adored. You're a wonderful human being. I
Thank
mean,
you so much. Well,
no,
right
honest to
back at
goodness,
you.
we are so grateful.
Oh,
It's I am so grateful to this program that Rob and I developed. What an opportunity to meet exceptional people. And I really
well,
say that, I mean that.
well, I feel the
Like-minded
same
people.
way.
Yeah.
I feel the same way back at you. And as I said, I'm really not blowing smoke. Your program, your and Rob's program, was an absolute game changer for my health experience. And I can never pay you back for that. I'm in a different place than I would be if I had not found PC-PEP, because there was nowhere else out there anywhere that I could find that provided the sort of support and caring that that program gave me. And I'm eternally grateful for it. Seriously.
What a blessing that we can come in each other's life. I too have learned a lot from you. Both Rob and I in the program are learning. And I think the fact that we have this open conversation, we're normal people, we accept the fact that there's just so much we don't know until we know.
Absolutely.
What a
And life is
great
all about learning. You never stop learning about life.
shame, no guilt.
know?
Okay, there's some things we can do better. What can we do better? How can we work with one? What are some realities out there? And sometimes, unless you speak it out, unless you bring it into awareness and into light, you can't fix it. You've got to
Absolutely.
shed some light on it before you can do anything about it. Yeah.
Absolutely. And a big way of doing that is this.
Conversation.
It's conversation. It's reading. But nothing can touch shared experience.
Yeah.
It's just what life is all about. It's the beauty of a hug every day. It's the shared experience.
Honestly, and the gay groups
that we have, the gay group, I would call it, in the PC-PEP has been absolutely exceptional. Every man in that group speaks openly, candidly from the heart. We joke with one another. There is an established trust, which I don't know really where it's coming from, except to say I'm very grateful for it. I can speak
Yes.
freely. You can speak freely. I'm not ashamed, or I don't feel any one of you would judge me when I say, I don't know this. I don't, let me
Well,
lean forward, teach me.
you know
So
what?
that's how you make change. I
I
said, I don't
completely
know,
hear what
but
you're
I'm not a gay
saying.
man. Yeah.
And again, I mean, I feel I try not to have imposter syndrome because I've not lived my life as an open gay man. I haven't,
Yeah, yeah.
despite the fact
Beautiful.
I will
Beautiful.
quantify. You know what? I have had openly gay friends for
Yeah, yeah.
virtually all of my life, and they have been
Mhm.
openly gay to me, and I have been a part of that experience. But to your
Mhm.
comment, I think there is a certain and again, you never like to generalize because there's always outliers and there's
Mhm.
always people that don't fit, but the reality is, I think there is a true brotherhood within men who identify as gay, bisexual, and men who have sex with men around health issues. And it's
Yes.
not a pretty
Yeah.
picture. It's
Mhm.
not that it was it's not because of a good experience. It's because a thing called, gay liberation and gay rights happened in the late 60s. Gay
Mhm.
men and women began to live openly and more accepted in the 70s. And then along came a plague that virtually decimated the entire gay male community around the world, that being HIV. There were years of
Yeah.
people dying and nobody listening, and governments not reacting, and healthcare not reacting, and gay men learning that the only way they were going to make change was to basically mobilize, to become loud, to openly talk about the situation, and to make change. And so it doesn't surprise me when you say that, you find the gay men's conversation about health very open. I think gay men learned during a very powerful time. Look, there was an entire AIDS active group called ACT UP. I don't know if you've ever heard of them, but they were based out of New York. They had
Mhm.
divisions all over the world, and
Mhm.
they were the ones that got very militant in the fight.
Mhm.
But all I will say about this is their most famous slogan, and I use that loosely because it cheapens it a bit, but it was what it was. Their slogan was "Silence equals death," because in the
Mhm.
era of AIDS, silence equaled death.
Yeah,
That was
that's
the way it
true.
was.
Yeah.
If you
Yeah.
didn't talk about your situation, you were
You're
going
as
to
good as
go.
death. Yeah. Yeah. You're as good
And
as death.
and so gay men woke up and said, look, if we
Mhm.
don't talk about this, no one will.
Totally.
So when a group of gay men get together in a health issue, I don't think, prostate cancer is only one. Um, I'm sure if there are gay men groups, they are openly talking about the situation. And I
Mhm.
think that's why it's a hard learned, lived experience of being an advocate and for talking openly in order to help yourself and help others.
Conversation. One of the things that we're learning, and thank goodness, and we're working with you alongside, is how to let other community-based organizations, in addition to urology medical centers, not just in Canada, because now we're on 4 continents. I'm talking also about New Zealand, South Africa, I know, South Africa and Europe, how to mobilize them to promote the program, and not just PC-PEP, but allow men, right, to know what is out there so that they may choose. Like you said, I see the PC-PEP name at the bottom of a link that I'm getting with information. I'm clicking on it. You have the right, men have the right to know what's out there for them.
Yes.
And I find that we walk in all sorts of barriers. And I love our communications because it helps us become creative as to how do we get past those barriers? What are some of the facilitators in terms of getting the word out? Also, what can we do internally at PC-PEP to make this a more accessible environment, a more open environment, a more helpful? How can we really be of service completely? Are there some changes that we can do, even with respect to the face of the program, that tells men unequivocally, you belong here? And in fact, we had a conference on Saturday, not this Saturday, 2 Saturdays ago, and it was fabulous. The information was pouring for you as to, what do we do? How do we change the face? Do we change the website? Do we change the message? Do we change the daily videos? Is there can we create a daily video, or can we create a welcome video that says you are welcome here? This program is for you. And then also talking about the wide array of identity. Is it men having sex with other men? Is it, gay men? Have you always been a gay man? Are you someone that transitioned? How do we make those conversations natural, open? And then also through the program, perhaps change the conversations at the level of the medical system, change the conversations at the level of the community. But there are many barriers in this journey, and many of them oftentimes have to do, because I know one of the gay men in the group, he was so sweet. I'm not going to give any names, but he came up with a list of, organizations, they're gay organizations. We jumped on that with an opportunity. Send an email. Rob sent an email from an oncologist. We thought it carries more weight than little Gabriela, a scientist. What am I going to? But Rob sends the email to all of them. Zero response back. Not even, hey, Rob, thanks for that email. We might let somebody know. How do we move from here?
Okay, so
that's a fully loaded question.
Oh, the wheels are going.
I'm only throwing it at you because you're so open-minded and you have a broader perspective. You've worked in the community. You've seen what happens to at the level of the medical system, and you've been in the program. So perfect conversation.
I've also worked in not-for-profit.
Yes.
And I've worked in the entertainment business.
Yes.
So here.
Please forgive me.
No. So this is an incredible conundrum. And I totally understand it, but here are I feel what I would call the biggest roadblock. Men do not want to think about prostate cancer until they've been diagnosed with prostate cancer. You can do every possible type of outreach. You can cast a small net, you can cast a wide net, but for a myriad of reasons, and I'm not talking just about gay men, I'm talking about men. Wow. Men do not want to think about prostate cancer. Wow. They don't want to talk about prostate cancer because of all of the things that are associated with it. And the things that are just there, they are the symptoms of it, they are the side effects of it, they are the potential treatment of it. There are all sorts of roadblocks around that. When it comes to sort of groups that are for outreach, having had some experience in the not-for-profit, and I don't think this comes from a negative place at all. Mm-hmm. Most nonprofit organizations, community organizations, are horribly underfunded. And that's it's nobody's fault and everybody's fault, because nobody wants to sort of deal with these groups until they actually have to deal with the group, and so subsequently, a lot of these organizations are very underfunded and they're staffed. They just don't have enough people. And so, and they have usually a board of directors, and they have a small P&L that they are getting funding of some sort. They have to get to the end of the year and prove that they did not lose any money, that that they were able to keep the staff on that they did, that they were able to get the mandates met for their own specific cause, whether that's health related or entertainment related or whatever the hell it is. You need to get to that only so that you make sure you're around next year. Mm-hmm. So when other organizations reach out, it's not that you don't want to help. Mm-hmm. You have so much on your plate that you're trying to manage. And so, in my time, when I was working in not-for-profit, and I don't mind saying, I ran a film festival for 10 years. And we would get a lot of people reaching out. And so usually the way we always evaluated it as a team is we would have the list on our meeting, and then we would go through and try and decipher or determine, I guess a better word, the small list that actually fit our mandate. so that we could sort of marry up with them in one way or another. Because again, there's far too many. And
Wow.
so, I'm gonna speak from my own experience here. But look, I'm in no way, shape, or form bad mouthing the health industry, or
No,
sorry,
no,
I
no,
shouldn't
no.
say industry, health,
Uh,
health. What would you call it? Health? There.
Institution, yeah.
The health.
Medical system,
You know,
a system, yeah.
the medical system. I am thankful to have had it. I am
Mhm.
where I
Oh
am
gosh, you're
because
doing
of
a
it.
great job. Yeah.
The people that I have dealt with in it have been wonderful. They could not have been more helpful.
Mm.
But they're all very busy. They all have every day a list this long of things that they have to do.
Yeah.
So I will say, and this is from a PC-PEP perspective, but also from Prostate Cancer Foundation of Canada, from anything associated with prostate cancer, I needed to be given that information where the rubber hit the road. I needed to be given that at the urologist's office. I was reeling. I had been told I had prostate cancer. Luckily, I had read a little bit about before that, but I don't think most people do. They don't want to even think about the fact that it might come back as positive. And there is a real danger on being told you have cancer, leaving a doctor's office, whether it's a urologist or whatever doctor it is, and being sent home to your computer.
Agreed.
It is a dangerous place.
Yeah, I agree.
Because
the worry.
majority of things you will look at are going to tell you you're going to die.
Yeah.
And that is what you're going to be told. In virtually every website you go to and every message you see, it's going to tell you the worst possible outcome.
And we're going to hang on to that negative message. Absolutely. And then the trial starts.
Well, the rabbit hole opens.
The
rabbit hole opens and people fall into it. And every day you can't sleep. You wake up in the morning.
Yeah,
you just doom scroll it more. You just read more negative stuff. The way to circumvent that is to give me the places to go when I leave. When you tell me I have cancer, give me the signposts on where I need to go. Whether it's PC-PEP and the Prostate Cancer Foundation of Canada, the Penis Project, this absolutely incredible podcast from down under, where this wonderful woman talks about everything to do with penises, including prostate cancer and erection pumps and side effects and incontinence and Kegels and all these. Yeah. You can fill your day up learning about your situation
and becoming
and arming yourself on how you're going to come out the other side, feeling great and feeling like I've got this, instead of spending a couple of months waiting for your treatment, thinking it's the end. That's the option. Yeah. And you know what? God bless you guys at PC-PEP and all the other organizations. You're doing your best to get the word out. But if you haven't been diagnosed with prostate cancer, you don't want to hear about prostate cancer. You just don't. You certainly don't want to think about it. The only way you might possibly is if someone near you had prostate cancer and you wanted to learn about it. But by and large, you're not really going to go start diving into learning about prostate cancer as a hobby. It's just not something you're going to do. It only becomes a thing when it's a thing. And when it's a thing, it really needs to be the people who told you it's a thing to give you the places to go, because they're too busy. I can't call a urologist every hour of the day and go, how do you answer this? And what should I be doing on this? And that's what organizations like you guys do. But I have to know you exist. Yeah. And the only way I can know you exist is, and it's not sticking something on a wall. It's not putting a brochure on a coffee table, because I'm not going to look. Especially when I'm leaving, I've just been hammered with a message that I have cancer. So you know what? While you're giving me something that's probably a requisition or an appointment message, give me a sheet of paper that just says, you've just been diagnosed with prostate cancer. Here are people who can help you get to where you need to go. And you know what? You can't force people to do this. You can't force people to join these organizations. But I think most people want to be able to go somewhere where they're going to get answers. And again, this is not a slight on healthcare. It's not what they do. But they don't assign you a therapist. And quite frankly, a therapist wouldn't help me with this either, because a therapist would sit and tell me, how do you feel about this? And I'm not talking bad about therapists, but that's what they do. How is your partner handling this? And all I'm going to do is sit there and say, well, frankly, I feel like crap and I don't know what to do. Just tell me what to do. And you know what? It's not complicated. But healthcare, as I said, every doctor's office on the planet seems to be full of friggin' brochures. But you have to go over and get it. You have to be told it matters to you. You have to be told you should look at this. And the only way that can happen is from the doctor that just told you you have cancer. It's the only way. And you know what? As I said, it's a conundrum, because you guys are trying to make this program be the best it can be, and it will be, but it only will be for the people who found out about it almost by accident, and that's wrong. Because doctors should tell us. That's it. And again, I'm not slapping doctors around. I know their situation, and I feel for it. In fact, this is the easy one. Just hand me a piece of paper that says, you know what? You were just diagnosed with prostate cancer. There are a whole lot of organizations on here that are all different types. You need to go home and investigate them, because I think some of them or all of them could help you. That's all I needed. That was it. And luckily for me, I found your program. I found it 3 months before my surgery. So I had a surgery right in the middle of your program. And I am still doing my function strength training 2 days a week. I am still doing my giggles every day. I'm still all those things. And look, quite honestly, and I don't want to just blow smoke, there were things in your program I'm not doing.
And that's fine. Pick what works, leave the rest.
Look, I am the first guy to tell you, I am not a food lover. I eat healthy, but I'm not a food lover. I'm not one of these people that calls himself a foodie. I don't fetishize food. I'm just not that guy. So I listen to what you say on your voicemails or your little video message and whatnot, and I go, oh yeah, that's interesting. I've never thought of turmeric. Maybe I'll do that. But you know what? Did I copy every? No, because that's not who I am. It's not who I am.
Nor should you.
Exactly.
Right? It's just a matter, look, we're going to throw this and this and this and this. Pick what works for you, leave the rest.
Exactly. Because the problem is, when it's an all-encompassing program like yours, you can't possibly do it 365 days a year for the next 20 years. You can't do it. What you have to do is you have to see what fits you in your life, take those pieces away, and continue them. Do things you can stick to. It's like going to the gym and working out. You know what? If you really love it and you plan on doing it for the rest of your life, great. But if you're one of those people that joins the gym in January and quits in February because, you know what, you just got bored with it, that doesn't work. You've got to figure out the things that work for you in your life, adopt them as a new part of your life, like my 3 Kegels a day. I know I'm going to do till, frankly, I'm sitting in a corner chewing my tongue and not able to do them anymore. That's when I will stop doing them, because that I've seen a result from. It's a result that has changed my life. It's changed my experience. And it is a small thing for me to do in 24 hours every day to make sure that that part of my life is where it needs to be.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this is so important. You have given me such enthusiasm and a sense of advocacy. Every year, Rob and I and our team, our students, the postdoctoral fellow, just everybody, we go to the annual Canadian Urologic Association. And I think this year, coming up, we're going to, among other abstracts, one of them is going to be about making the program, customize it for vulnerable populations, among them the gay group. So we are going to have a presentation. We're going to put an abstract together. You saw some of the statistics we presented at the conference on Saturday.
They were very interesting.
Very interesting. We're going to put those up, and we're also going to put some of the testimonials and really open a conversation in front of probably, I don't know, I would say about 2,000, 3,000 people that are clinicians that come
Yes.
to the Canadian Urological Association, and advance the idea that perhaps our program, alongside other programs that have been scientifically tested. So I'm talking about evidence-based data that we published the results now, thousands of men that have gone through the program, that they should have this information. Can we help? Because programs like ours bridge
Yes.
what's
Yes.
happening to the person at home, what you were saying, going through or through the motion versus what's happening in the medical system. So we're bridging this gap that exists and see if we can work alongside with them to change and allow this information to be offered to patients right at diagnosis. You're absolutely right about the net. Do you throw it narrow? Do you throw it wide? And what happens? So that's definitely something very actionable. You see, this dialogue leads to ideas that are very actionable to me, very practical things that I can do right now to advocate a bit, to move the needle a little forward. Because it's not just about science. Science is great. We've done it. It's not about implementation. But really, at the end of the day, can you make this program become sustainable? And can you make it reach the people that need it most when they need it? Not 5 years later. We have so many men in the program. The first thing that comes out of their mouth, why didn't anybody tell me about this program? Why didn't anybody? Not one soul. And it's not that I haven't asked. So this is something so actionable, so easy to do, to make a difference. I just so much help there. Thank you so much, Wayne. That's
My pleasure. And I mean, we sort of dipped a little bit into the whole psychological piece, and that's the psychology of cancer. And whatever kind of cancer it is one of the most impactful pieces of a cancer diagnosis, maybe more so than the cancer itself, is the psychological slap in the face that a cancer diagnosis is to the person receiving it. And it doesn't matter how well informed you are. People are almost glib about it now. Oh, the big C. It is the big C. And and I know doctors recognize that, but the impact of the patient walking out of the office where they were just giving the diagnosis, where they're almost throwing up and passing out with panic, that's the psychological piece. And I think it's a piece that gets missed because you leave the office and you're left to your own devices to wait for the next message from healthcare. And that is not the answer, because all that does is destroy the psychology of the people and makes them weaker as they go into what is potentially one of the great fights of their life. And again, I'm not talking specifically about prostate cancer because that's my only experience, but I've had other family members that have had other types of cancer, and it hasn't really been a whole lot different. They come home and say they have cancer, and they're left to sort of figure out what that looks like. And look, if the reality of the world was that is the way things are and that is the way it goes, that would be the case, but it's not. Organizations such as yourselves have things there that are that hand, that are that hand on the shoulder, that hug to say, you're not alone. Lots of people have gone through this. You're going to get through this. And here's how we're going to help you. And I mean, for programs like PC-PEP to be available at no cost are absolutely extraordinary. I mean, Canadians, we're somewhat spoiled by our healthcare and the abilities of what it will do for us. And we're not bankrupt after we've had a health scare of one sort or another. And there's something to be said for that. But aftercare, and in particular, aftercare on a cancer diagnosis, is just it makes me overwhelmed with emotion on it is such an unknown. When you're diagnosed with a heart problem, it's easier to grasp. than a cancer diagnosis is, because it's the big C, as
Yeah.
people, glibly say.
Yeah.
And it should be an onus on the entire health care system that cancer diagnosis should have aftercare as part of it. And it shouldn't be aftercare that the patient should have to advocate for themselves, because they're not in the mental headspace to be able to do it properly. Instead, they go to the internet and it all gets dark real fast. And,
Yeah, it's interesting what you're saying too. You're pointing towards a paper that we're about to publish. So what we did is we run this randomized clinical trial where we looked at men diagnosed with curative disease that were either scheduled for radical prostatectomy or for radiation. And we randomly assigned them to 6 months of being treated one way or the other with the PEP program or without the PC-PEP program. And we find out that lo and behold, at the 6 month, they're doing much better mentally. They're doing much better mentally even at the end of the year. Men in the PC-PEP program have better urinary function, better overall, better sexual function, especially men that are in the radical prostatectomy group. And you're seeing all those quality of life benefits. In addition to that, better physical fitness, better diet overall, just better overall well-being, including less comorbidities, etc., developed later on. But then we did a mediation analysis. And then outside of the academic jargon, basically what the mediation analysis is, we questioned what factor could explain why is it that men that take the PC-PEP program have better mental health, not just at 6 months, but at 12 months. And we looked at a possible factor that could explain this, and that's self-efficacy and the activation of the patient in their own care. Lo and behold, more than 50% of the variance in mental health improvements was due to that. But then we had a really interesting question, follow-up question, because, it's believed in the literature that it is the urinary problems and the sexual problems, particularly associated with radical prostatectomy, that could be the culprit as to why, because perhaps taking the program makes men feel better, and we had that scientific evidence. That's the mechanism. I bet you that there's some variance that can be explained by better urinary function, by better sexual function, especially in the radical prostatectomy group. Well, we do the mediation analysis, and there's no statistical significance. Wow. So now none of those functional changes statistically mediated the program's effectiveness in terms of psychological distress. The indirect effects were small, non-significant, indicating basically that improvements in continence or sexual outcomes did not explain the reduction in distress. So what does that really show? Well, to me, the absence of a mediation effect is clinically meaningful, as it challenges this assumption that urinary and sexual function alone are the principal determinants of psychological morbidity in prostate cancer survivorship. And you point that out very clearly, because you're saying, wait a minute here, in addition to urinary sexual function, there are some other global psychological well-being issues that happen when you come to me and you tell me I have cancer. Because in this society, we attribute such enormous distress and despair to this word, the big C, like you said, that there's this whole process of, I'm diagnosed and I'm left with nothing. I'm left high and dry, hanging with no information. I don't know where to go. I need to go to the internet to find out information. Now I have appointment after appointment after appointment where I don't know what the results are going to be. More stress, more anxiety. So there is this whole process of needs that are not being met, that explain and that really point to the fact that the psychological distress and the silent epidemic of psychological distress and mental health illness that we noticed in the prostate cancer population, even 16 years, 18 years later, is due to the fact that there is a whole journey here that is not mediated by empowerment, that is mediated by disempowerment, by appointments where you have to wait, by information that you're not sure about, because a lot of the needs, the survivorship needs that, altered identity, communication challenges, unmet supportive care needs, rather than, urinary and sexual dysfunction, are not being met. And that's where a program like ours come into place to bridge that. And, once you empower men, then they look practically at it. Like you were saying, I've done my treatment. I've landed with all this. I'm now knowledgeable. I understand. I took the program. I know what I can and cannot do. I know where I stand in terms of control, albeit little, but I have some control. Now I can look at my life and say, I'm not dead. I'm still kicking. I want to have a
Control is a huge part.
Huge.
And it's a huge part of the male existence, because men are taught and raised to control a myriad of things in their lives. And, health issues, which I think is one of the reasons men don't want to talk about, is the things they can't control. But when sort of circling back on what you said, how many times have we heard, or have I heard in my lifetime, a big part of beating cancer is your outlook, is your mental picture? Well, you know what? If that is the case, then damn it, give me the tools to be able to work that part that, quite frankly, is not a urologist's job. That's not the urologist's job, is to provide me with the psychological, backup. And it's also, as I said to you, it's really not, I don't think it fits into the therapy world, because unless the therapist I'm sitting in front of is a male who had prostate cancer and had his prostate removed and had all of the things that I have, I'm not sure even his back and forth is going to matter as much as me being given some tools to do my own research, to talk to a myriad of people facing things in all different ways and experiencing people who have come out the other side. Because that's how I feel, my greatest value now as a prostate cancer survivor, and that's what I'm going to be now for the rest of my life, is I feel like I was diagnosed, that I took charge of what was happening to me to the best I could. I informed myself. I made decisions that I felt I was making, that I had come to with my partner and with friends. And these were well-informed decisions. And now I'm on the other side of it and starting to figure out what that next phase looks like. Look, prostate cancer may be the thing that kills me. I don't know. And I don't want to know. I don't want prostate cancer to define me. I just want it to be something that I was diagnosed with, I was treated for. I'm currently not facing it. I went through, and I'm now out the other side looking at life with a bit of a different lens, because again, the cancer diagnosis, life is never the same after it. It's just never the same, because for those first really questionable few weeks, it is the dark night of the soul. In the middle of the night when you wake up and your partner's asleep and everybody else is asleep, and all you're really thinking about is, I have cancer. You are never the same person after that. And you have to recognize that, like, you just have to. But I also feel that there are positives about that. That if you come out the other side and, and it's in remission, or you are, your PSA is undetectable if you're a prostatectomy guy, well, then you know what? Then it's time to start thinking about maybe some of the other great things in your life that maybe you didn't get around to doing. Maybe there's some people you haven't hugged lately. You maybe need to get at that, and sort of recognize that the time is limited. Something is inevitably going to kill us all, but a cancer diagnosis is, for lack of a better term, an alarm clock. Like it really is. It wakes you up to your life, to what your life means, to who's in your life, to what you're doing with your life, to where you're going with your life, to how you're treating people. And if it isn't, then you haven't done enough self-reflecting yet. Because that's where it comes from. And again, you can't change it after. You're always somebody who's had a cancer diagnosis, whatever cancer it is. Yeah. And again, I don't mean to be flippant about it. It's the big C.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wayne, I'm really happy to hear that you're looking at, I'm happy to hear that this is the decision that you arrived at. Not that it's better or worse. That's not what I mean. But hey, you're considering an implant, a penile.
Oh, no, I'm doing it.
Okay, great. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
I'm doing it.
Great. Okay, Wayne, tell us a little bit about that, because other people may want to hear. This is such an important conversation. First off, not often that happens in the urologist office, because I guess the clinician is waiting for you to say something, or I don't know, it's not happening.
Well,
This conversation is not
I
happening.
asked my urologist actually.
Oh, did you? There you go.
Look, again, I'm an open book, and I don't mind speaking candidly. I don't think this is oversharing. I am a sexual person. I quite enjoy sex.
Yeah. Thank God.
One,
It's as normal as breathing. You're a human being.
so you just took a word out of my mouth. The amount of dread and what I will call post-operative grief I had for my the end of my my ejaculation in my life, because, and look, I knew this was coming. No pun intended.
Oh, yeah.
I knew this was where things were going to go, because you know what? Physiologically, it can't not happen if you have a prostatectomy. You are no longer going to ejaculate. Like, you're just not. So, and I knew that. But as my surgery date started to approach, my sense of dread and the little voice in my head that every time I was about to orgasm, a little voice said, "Is this the last one? Is this going to be the last one? Is this going to be the last one? Do I remember my last one? I most definitely do, and I tear up when I think about it. But the reality is, I did not want to die of prostate cancer. And yes, I could have went to radiation, but that's another whole podcast as to why I came to the decision I did versus the decision. And there's no wrong decision here. You make the decision that's right for you. But I did know this was the outcome. But I was a person who, or sorry, let me rephrase that because that's really unfair. I am a person who really enjoys sex. I can't lie. Post-prostatectomy, I had an enormous amount of grief for the inability to ejaculate. And yes, I still orgasm, and it is completely different, which I sort of suspected, because I think I read it or heard it, that many men feel it's a different sensation. And quite frankly, it may be more intense than it was, but it's different. It's not the same. And something that I've experienced I'm 63. I had my operation at 62. So let's just say 50 some odd years. That's no longer my experience and my existence anymore. It's something new. So to your point about the penile implant, when I went back to have my catheter removed after my prostatectomy, so 2 weeks in, I said to the urologist, and I think they were a bit taken aback. I said, "So tell me about ED drugs." Because I said, and I already have my vacuorect pump. I read about it. I know it's the right one. I want to make sure. I said, I've been exercising that for quite a few months now, all during my PC-PEP. I said, so I've been doing that. Put me on one of the ED drugs. I went on Cialis. I went on 5 milligrams a day. And everything I read said it is not realistic to really expect major erection ED things within a year after a prostatectomy. You have to give yourself time to heal.
Yeah, you do.
So, when I went in for my first checkup, which I guess would be 3 months later, I said to my urologist, I said, "I'm really not experiencing anything. I'm not feeling anything." I said, "Can you tell me, was there nerve sparing done?" And so, the urologist said, "You know what, let me get the pathology report again, just to refresh my memory." So they did. They came back and said, "So when we went in, there is a layer of fat along the prostate." And they said, "We were concerned that one of the potential spots was quite close to that. And we felt we needed to take that layer of fat to remove." And so I could sort of fill in the gap when I was told that, because I knew that the nerves had gotten a lot of damage. Some of them may be gone for all I know. But I knew I wasn't in that category of, expect it to come back in 3 or 4 months. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to give it a year. So I went from, that would be July, I went to what would be now this past July,
Yeah.
and nothing is happening. I'm doing the
Mhm.
daily Cialis, blah, 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 blah.
And the
So I went to
chemo.
my,
Yeah.
I
Mhm.
went to my urologist for my checkup on my PSA.
Yeah.
And I basically said, I have come to the decision that I want to get a penile implant. And they said, oh. And I said, I know this probably seems like I'm rushing this. I said, but I know my situation. I said, but
Mhm.
also, I'm not crazy about taking daily drugs when they
Yeah.
don't appear to be doing anything for me. It'd be different if they were working, but they don't appear to be, and they're quite expensive. And
Yeah.
stupid health, insurance doesn't cover those, even
Right.
though I'm not taking them to have a good time. I'm
Yeah.
taking them to see if I can get my ED back,
Exactly.
but they're not covered either way. And I said, I'm not really keen on Trimix. I don't think that works for me as a
Mhm.
solution. I'm not even interested in really trying it because I like to travel. I'm not interested in traveling with a bunch of needles. I'm not,
Yeah.
it's
And
just not going to fit my lifestyle.
people listening to this, by the way, Trimix it's an injection. It's a
Yeah.
peanut injection. Yeah.
And I just thought it's not going to fit my lifestyle. And so
Mhm.
I feel I can sit for the next 3 to 5 years and pump every day for at least 30 minutes. I can continue taking this drug that doesn't appear to be working, or I can do this solution when I'm still
Mhm.
younger. I can get over the surgery better. I can learn to use it because I have good dexterity. Um, and I can continue to start enjoying my sex life again in, maybe 3 months after I have it or sooner. So I don't want to wait. I want to do it now. And so that was in the summer. I was referred to a urologist that specializes in that. That urologist, I have to give prop to. I won't give their name. The time they afforded me, the insight they afforded me, the questions they answered for me were my heart goes out to them. They were
Oh,
so kind to me.
oh, so good to hear this.
As I said to them, I said, when I came in, I was 99% sure I was going to move forward with this. And they said, well, here's my rule. I have a rule of 6 weeks. I'm going to send you
Mhm.
away. You can do some more research if you like. You can talk with your partner about it. You can maybe talk to some other people who've had them. And they said, I will follow up with you in 6 weeks. And if you still want to go forward, then we'll go forward. So that's where I'm at. And that
That's
was how I got to that decision.
great. Oh my goodness, this is so good. And we have some other men that have taken the PC-PEP program that are gay that also are considering this. So it's so great that you guys get to talk to one another. We have those pre-sessions before the monthly video conferences. This is a beautiful community there for you to support one another and also become mentors to new people coming in. And
Absolutely.
this is really excited about that.
Well,
And
yeah,
now
it
we're
puts me
working.
it, it,
Yeah.
it puts me in a special club
Yes,
for
it does. It
for
does.
insight.
Oh,
And again,
oh,
I'm not being funny about it, but
no,
this is
no.
not something that a lot of people elect to do. And
Mhm.
so the pool of people to be able to talk to who've done it is not a large pool. And
No.
so, part of my healing and experience and my post-cancer life
Right.
is to be one of those people who will
Mhm.
talk and answer questions and be there when somebody wants to ask.
Thank you so much, Wayne. Not just for our gay group, but for the whole group, because now we're just, having conversations about it. It's nice to hear from a person that is going through this, that is wondering about this, that is worrying, that is being excited about this, that is learning about this. What is it like to be going through this? If that's something I want to consider, the good, the bad, and the ugly, just the in between.
Yes,
Yeah,
I am a man who survived prostate cancer,
there you go.
who happens to be at this point in my life gay.
Yeah,
And it is in that order.
yeah.
It's
Beautiful.
not a gay
Beautiful.
guy who had prostate
Beautiful.
cancer.
Beautiful.
No, I'm just a man who had prostate cancer, who happens to be identifying as gay at this point in my life.
So good. This is so good.
Because
Well,
life is full of curveballs.
oh my goodness, isn't it ever? Isn't it ever?
But would we want it any other way? I mean, some of the curveballs suck. Let's face it, they hit you in the eye. But the reality is, it's part of the joy of being here.
Agreed, agreed. Wayne, any other thoughts that are in your mind right now? I have a feeling you and I are going to do another podcast because
I've blabbed far too long. Everybody's turned it off. Everybody's turned it off by now.
It's well balanced. No, you're extremely articulate. You're kind. You speak from the heart. You wear your heart on your sleeve. I'm so deeply grateful, and I really mean that.
I'm honored you asked.
So
Thank
much
you.
from you. Thank you so much for allowing me to learn directly from you. This program will never be what it is if it wasn't for men like you that speak candidly. And I urge every researcher out there to open up your minds, talk to patients. I know the literature is great, that top-down approach, fantastic, but you need to bring the voice of the patient back into research, back into just how feasible, how realistic it is what we're doing. Otherwise, what's the good of all that? We need to do this. Top-down, bottom-up is so important.
In particular, in the age of the internet.
Oh my goodness. And in
The
particular,
internet is a game changer for healthcare in a good way and in an absolutely horrible way.
Absolutely. I totally agree. Wayne, anything on your mind, anything you might want to tell people just before we wrap things up? And we say,
my gosh, Gabriela, you've been talking to me. You must know there's a billion things on my mind at any given time. What's on my mind right now is, you know what? I really enjoyed this. I'm honored that you asked, quite frankly, and I would never have said no. I feel I owe you and Robin the program so much that if you ever asked me to do anything, I would always say, if it was in my realm of ability, I would say yes, because my life is better today because of what I experienced with the PC-PEP program. So, you know, I'm indebted to you. You're not indebted to me.
Well, we'll see about that. I am. Honestly, just learning from you directly has been just a joy of my life. And it's for me, it's so important because I'm writing all those papers. Even now, I'm finishing up this mediation paper, and I'm saying, in what ways can I speak to my friends and my colleagues, clinicians, in ways they can accept and understand, for us to see, what an incredible opportunity this is to do things a little better, to recognize ourselves in one another and realize that we're so much more alike than different. And that
everybody wins.
You know, everybody wins.
Everybody wins.
Talk about our dads, our partners, our, sons, this is our family. This is us we're talking about. Humanity, let's do something together. And talk openly about it.
And again, without
what do we have to lose, Wayne?
Without jumping into another conversation, but I will make a point to mention it. When I was diagnosed, I went through 3 months where I did not want to tell anyone.
Wow.
I didn't even want to tell I didn't want to tell my family. My partner knew, and I didn't want to tell anybody else because I didn't want people to think of me as. I didn't want the first thing out of their mouth is, "How are you doing?"
Yeah. Oh,
right? My goodness. Because conversations change after you divulge that.
Absolutely.
But I spent.
How are you doing? What can we do about it?
I spent 3 months thinking, how damn selfish is that of me?
Oh.
To want to not, to choose to not help others by speaking about my own experience.
Look at the reframing. Look at the reframing. Beautiful. You are a good man. You are such a good man. Honest to goodness, we're so blessed. Thank you. Thank you, the universe, to bring us this amazing people in our lives. And really, thank you for everything that you give to the PC-PEP group, to the gay group, the pre-sessions that we have, to those communications and conversations. They will translate into information for all of us to open up our minds, even if we push the needle by a meter. That's even if we reach one gay man. Listen, why men? One man. Even if we reach one man through this,
absolutely,
we've done our job. It's about that. How can
absolutely?
So thank you, Wayne.
My pleasure.
Thank you so much for learning, helping me learn directly.
And have a wonderful holiday season, because we're at that point in the year. So
to you as well, and to everybody listening. Happy holidays.
Thank you. Bye now.
Thank you.
And this concludes episode number 12 of our podcast. For more information about our programs, please visit PC-PEP.org. For all forms of cancer, please go to cancerpep.com. Amazing conversation with Wayne. I so much enjoyed this. Until next time, be well and take care of yourselves.